Hi, I'm Nate Ashford from Cprime, and I'm glad to be here at Flagship this year. Cprime is a global consulting firm based on business agility or focused on business agility and covering everything from training and coaching to tool implementation and integration. Now, I lead a group of technical coaches. We're all active engineers who get in and make things for our clients or with our clients. There's something delicious about making something and then being able to taste the benefits of what you made. It's really cool to see how everything comes together to make something awesome. And so when we're talking about DevOps, right, the same principle applies. There's so much to get into in that. And but if you're a chef, right, and you're cooking up something awesome, you're just throwing a couple of carrots on a plate and calling it a dish isn't really going to get the job done. You really need to throw in some combination of that salt, fat, acid, and heat, right? And just you got to have something more to it than that. And yet, all too often, I run into companies that they want to do DevOps, but when we start asking the questions and we get into it, all they really want is either a really simple build pipeline, right? Build, test, and we're done. Or to integrate Jira with their Bitbucket or GitLab or whatever. And then it's woohoo, congratulations, we have DevOps. Well, and this is not to say that any of those tools are bad, right? Cprime has multiple teams that just do Jira setups and integrations and help our clients get a ton of value out of those. But having that in place is not the same as doing DevOps. That's a very one-note dish. I mean, where's the umami flavor? Where's the subtlety and layers and complexity of flavor? There's a reason that cooks work with a whole pantry and a wide array of seasonings. This is your DevOps pantry. It's what we call the periodic table of DevOps. DevOps isn't just one or two ingredients. There's a whole range of them spanning the entirety of the development lifecycle. In fact, there's more here than can really be handled in one go. What you actually use out of all of that will depend on what you are trying to do. And by the way, if you'd like a copy of this, it's available on our website at the link below. But this periodic table has the capabilities laid out by the steps of the development process and color coded as well, so you can kind of see the flow as you go through it, starting with discovery and strategy and planning, going all the way through to release and monitoring and support. The ones at the bottom are more fundamental, like source code repositories and automated builds. The ones at the top are more advanced, like feature flags and automated event-based update of your Jira tickets. And so as you progress through these things, they build on each other in a way that that allows you to really capture the value and take those incremental steps. So with all that to work with, you're going to have to prioritize, pick and choose. No cook just simply dumps the whole pantry into a pot and stirs it up. It's important to be selective based on how everything fits together, the flavor profile you're looking for, the outcomes you're looking for. So we then took that same principle to these DevOps capabilities. We mapped out all the capabilities from the periodic table based on how they support each other. So the stuff on the top opens up capabilities down below, sort of in a directionality of dependencies or kind of natural flow of these capabilities as you progress and mature in your organization. So if you want to get to something in particular, follow the arrows, right? If we want to get that stuff down below at like hybrid cloud, and then we're going to need the the automated server provisioning. We're going to need continuous delivery pipelines above that, automated code testing and coverage, and so on and so forth. Because those capabilities early on provide the necessary building blocks to really do the other stuff well. So, pro tips, a couple of things to really pay attention to here. First off, don't try to do all of it at once. Just like in software development itself, big bang releases are very complex, difficult to manage, and hard to really make progress with. So start with just going one step better from where you are now, and use that as an opportunity to open up a path to what you want in the future. Really focus on those pieces that are going to just get you moving forward, getting some progress. And we'll talk a little bit more here in a minute on how to do that. But just remember that some of these steps are actually crucial to opening up other steps. So we have built into this map the ability, or just the identification of a few of these capabilities that are particularly impactful. So for example, if we look here at continuous delivery pipelines, getting continuous delivery pipelines opens up a half dozen other things, or actually more than that. If you look at automated server provisioning, that opens up a whole bunch of things. Automated deployment opens up another whole set of things. Functional test automation, another whole set of things. And so those ones, because of just the nature of of what they unlock for you, we've kind of highlighted a little bit here with this dark black border, because they're really a crucial part of providing you with in some cases unexpected opportunities, unexpected benefits as you start realizing what you can do next. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. Coming back to our metaphor here, a good recipe has a few main ingredients and then seasoning to bring it all together, and complementary dishes for balance, right? You don't just sit down to a single plate of carrots or what have you. You've got multiple dishes there with you to make a balanced meal. And similarly for DevOps, a recipe for success is going to look like, well, first off, focus on a few key areas, season with supporting tools, and then complement those with following capabilities. And remember that as you're doing this, those supporting tools, they should be all about taking those enabling teams, the teams that own, operate, and extend the tooling capability. We want to get them out of day-to-day support. We want to push more towards using self-service tooling, so that then those enablement teams, they can be focused on what are those other follow-on capabilities. What's next? What's the next thing that we can improve upon, or the next thing that we can make easier? Because as we do that, we're going to run into a couple of things here. First off, like out of all these things, where do we start and where do we go, right? Well, so with the where do we start, it works just like we would with any kind of agility assessment, or even looking at our development process. Let's map out the value stream. Let's start with from when we have an idea of something that we want to get out in our production systems, right? A new feature, a new capability, and where that gets out to production and our customers can use it. And everything in between, what are all the handoffs? What teams are involved? There's product folks, there's development people, there's deployment and operations that may be involved, and infrastructure and all those kinds of things. Where are all the handoffs between teams? And where does that work sit waiting for somebody to do the next step? And then can we go start turning some of those wait states into automation or self-service? Well, if we can turn that something into self-service, right? Then we put we put the team back in control of their own destiny. So they don't have to wait. They can just take care of it and keep things moving. Or if it's automation, it just happens automatically. It just happens, and again, they're not waiting. They can move forward. So then at that point, we can move forward to the next one. It's really useful when you're doing this to find a team that can actually be your guinea pigs, right? Your beta customer, somebody, or a team or group of teams that are comfortable working with tooling that may be a little bit broken, a little bit weaker, and who are willing to both experiment with it and provide feedback about it. So we do that in our work using what we call a dojo model, built around some work we did at Target a number of years ago. And in that model, we have teams that are working in kind of a unique immersive environment where they're running 2 cycles a week. So 2 sprints, 2 iterations, whatever the appropriate terminology is for that particular client, where they're doing real work. They're exposing some bottleneck, right? That so something gets stuck, because when you're running 2 sprints in a week, waiting 3 days for an approval on something, or waiting for some piece to get built for you, or what have you, that leaves you stuck, right? So what's that bottleneck? And then can we remove that constraint and identify a way to be able to keep the team moving? Well, if we can remove the constraint in some way, either again by automating, making self-service, or adjusting process, or any number of different things, can we apply this to help other teams as well, right? Can we do this in a way that it's not just a unique solve for this team, but make it a generic solve for the overall organization? And then as we do that, every spot that we improve boosts the entire ecosystem, right? Every time we improve the situation, as they say, a rising tide floats all boats, right? Lifts all boats. You're actually raising the tide with each one of those improvements, and we see that in the form of when you clear one bottleneck, the flow accelerates through that, through whatever that bottleneck was, and the overall flow through the system increases, and it keeps increasing until you reach another constraint, right? Some other new bottleneck that is limiting how much can flow through. So then that's the next thing that you go work on, and you focus on how do we eliminate that constraint? How do we open that up again? And again, let the flow accelerate, and then it will just continue to accelerate until there's some other constraint. So what this means to us then is all of these pieces are involved. And DevOps isn't any one of these things, but it's not all of them either. It's not just the sum of all these capabilities. Instead, it's this continuous upward trajectory of improvement, one small journey at a time. It's this mindset and approach of constantly looking at what's my constraint, how do I clear that constraint, and free the flow of work to be able to move quicker. How do I get faster feedback, shorter, less wait times, shorter duration on the work that we're doing, and get to where we just have work flowing through the system constantly. So with that, then, if we're looking at one small journey at a time, we can actually go back to this capability map and start mapping out where are we now, and what pieces do we already have in place, and where is it that we're trying to go. And if we know then where we're trying to go, we can start identifying what steps are needed to get there. But as we're doing this, and I mentioned this previously, we're also going to get to some spots where, as we come through these journeys, and opening up the pathways, we're going to discover some moments that that open up options that we hadn't really considered before, where because we've reached this point in our journey, something has opened up, but we've come to recognize and value something that we didn't value before. Something has become valuable that wasn't before, because the organization and the flow of work through the organization and through all of our processes and our people and our tooling has increased enough that someone else has become valuable. And so we're constantly making these adjustments, constantly taking these little journeys, continuously remixing and refining all the right ingredients. Thank you for joining me, and I appreciate your time, and have a great time at Flagship.